Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Bookseller Lightning Talk series, in which booksellers present short talks on tech tools, organizational strategies, communication methods, or innovations they've made in their stores.
I'm the operations manager at the Ivy Bookshop. I'm going to be talking about scheduling and staff morale. I've just learned over the past year or so being the operations manager here, a few things about what makes people happy, and a lot of that is structure. So we're going to talk about the structure and about ways to be lenient that keep staff happy. Just as a reference about where I'm coming from, the Ivy, which is this house at the top, I would consider it a mid-sized store. We're not multiple locations. We have a cafe sister store that is a few miles away. I'm the manager of about 22 employees. Here's a picture from inside the store. We also have a big garden in the back of the house where sometimes we have events and people rent it out. There's been a couple weddings and baby showers and things like that. Being able to do some of the things I suggest will vary based on your store size and access to resources, but I'm happy to brainstorm with people who can't do it exactly how I'm bringing it up today. So I kind of put this into good guy, bad guy roles because there are things people will love and things people might not. Reasons to be a good guy is that people work for small businesses to have human-to-human understanding and to not just be a number. So we have some people with chronic illnesses, including myself, and having somebody who's doing your scheduling and, dishing out consequences to not showing up and things like that, really understanding where you're coming from is a perk of having a smaller business that people would look forward to. And most bookstore problems are emergencies. So it's okay to be a little lenient or figure out ways that work for you to do things differently. The bad guy side is because boundaries are important for both the employee and the employer. Clear, straightforward rules make everyone feel more secure. And we've learned this with some changes happening at the store lately. So in terms of time off, these are just things that I do. Good guy, any time off request submitted more than a month in advance is automatically approved. I schedule a month in advance so people feel like their time is respected, especially part-time employees. There's no, this week I might be, because a month in advance, and if there's something that is happening, I can automatically give you that space unless you give me less than a month's notice. If the time off request comes after the schedule is posted, it's completely the employee's responsibility to get it covered. We've done our part by giving you your schedule far in advance, and if you can't make that schedule work because of an issue that's come up in between that, it's your responsibility to figure that out. There have to be consequences for missing shifts or not getting them covered, or people will continue to do whatever feels right to them or doesn't work for the store. Usually what I've done is if there's a lot of shifts that you miss or that you're dropping off for people or that you didn't call off in time, you just end up getting less shifts. I'm going to give shifts to people who are dependable and who I know are going to show up. And if you displayed a pattern of not doing that or, never having your requests in on time, that makes you a little less dependable than somebody I know who will do all of that stuff. So right now I have one employee who previously had specific scheduled shifts, and now she's only able to pick up shifts that other people drop because of the way she was calling out and things like that. Quick tips: managers and store owners should be equipped to cover any shift. Labor cost-wise, somebody salaried taking over a front desk shift instead of getting another part-time employee to take over the desk shift, that's somebody whose hours you're not paying because you already have a salaried employee there. So I am actually working front desk on Saturday because somebody called out, I usually am not at the front desk, but instead of, begging around for somebody to pick it up, I'm taking it, and then that's one less person that we're paying those hours when I do payroll. We use Homebase, and Homebase is great. If you don't use Homebase and you want walk through it, I'm happy to do that. Homebase lets people put their availability, request off, and trade shifts all on their own time. And it has a chat feature. So I know that the next presentation is about Slack, and we actually moved from Slack to Homebase because it's all in one place. If people didn't clock out on time, they just message me through Homebase, and I can go in and change it right there. And it's really easy to not have to be involved in the shift trading and all of that kind of stuff. For training has to be intentional. Sometimes you kind of want to have somebody with you, but the store is running and you're teaching them one little thing at a time. It's essential to block out time that is just for training. When we have people kind of learning things on the fly, there's some kind of frustration usually because there's not a step-by-step of what to do if there's also customers interrupting your training session. So if they're not scheduled to be on the floor and they're only scheduled for training, that keeps those interruptions down. Always warn an employee that they'll be training or that they'll be with a newer employee, because sometimes people aren't ready to answer questions and they'll see a new person and they'll be like, I didn't know that, such and such is about to ask me for every little thing. But if I tell them, on Wednesday, it's just you and this new person, they're going to ask you for lots of things. They're prepared when they come into work. All employees are liable to be asked to train. We don't have like a separate training rate for people who are doing the training, but we do double schedule shifts. So if I have a new employee working, I want them to train on front desk. Whoever's on front desk that day, they're both scheduled for front desk. So there's two people working that shift. And anybody who's working front desk that day who has been an employee and I know is competent in what they're training in can be asked to do it. And then I kind of already talked about the morale of people not being prepared to train. And the double scheduling and the one-on-one I mentioned. Staff meetings have actually proven to make our morale better. At our cafe location, we weren't having staff meetings for a while, and as soon as we started having them again, everybody just seemed to be so much more relaxed. We do staff meetings every other month, and people can put them on their calendar ahead of time because it's consistent. So we always do the first Wednesday of every other month, and we do them before the store opens as opposed to having people come in later in the day or stay after the store is closed. Everybody clocks in for staff meetings and gets paid for the hour that the staff meeting is. And I have like a suggestion box or so that employees can put in questions or suggestions for other employees in the box that keeps them from policing each other because they know that their suggestion is going to come up from a manager in a large group setting. Missing the staff meeting without prior notice counts as a missed shift. We have people who have other jobs, so I know that they're not going to make it. I always ask people to email me if they're not going to make it. If they don't send that email, it counts as a missed shift because you were scheduled to be there. We use Quill to order our supplies and things like that. I also have a snack corner for everyone, so I order snacks. We have a microwave, a coffee pot, all of that kind of stuff to make it be okay to be at work and not miserable. I believe that no employee should ever be hungry at work, so we have like instant mac and cheese cups, oatmeal, ramen cups, just so that when you're at work, you're not worried about what you're going to eat or that you're hungry or anything like that. But Quill, where we buy the snacks and supplies from, has a point system. And every dollar you spend gets you a point. But there's a lot of random cool things in their points. So every staff meeting, I have questions that are related to something that we're training. So you might ask, what are the 3 things that need to be put in a note for a SPO? And whoever answers first gets a prize. Last staff meeting, somebody got a Swiss Army knife. Somebody has gotten a Friends puzzle with all of their faces on it. Just random fun things that make people laugh, make staff meetings more fun to come to. In conclusion, all anybody wants is structure and clarity. Just like if you're a teacher or if you have kids, you know that rules just make people feel more secure. Getting to show compassion to your employees is a perk of working in a small business. If the scheduling systems are in place, then you're able to cut employees some slack and adjust to personal emergencies. And stick to your guns. So just follow through on rules and consequences, and that's the only way to make the rules real. And that's what I've got. So if anybody has questions, let me know.
Amani, I really appreciate the structure as clarity and rules as clarity. I think that is a really important balancing act. And operating from that foundation is so critical.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
What I really admire and respect how you treat your employees. Did you come into your role at the bookshop with this already in place, or did you develop it? And how'd you get like store proprietor on board? Like, how did you create the culture that this became? You can see my cat. How did you create the culture that made this usable?
So actually, when I got to the bookstore, there was a bit of a morale issue. There was a lot of employees kind of feeding off of each other's complaints and making things a little bit bigger than they were. So that was part of what I came in to change. So it was pretty easy to get the store owner and other manager on board with what we were doing. It's mostly, I think, that people feel like you care. Like the snacks thing, me saying, like, I don't want anybody to be hungry at work. That means that if somebody is having an issue, then they know Amani probably cares. So I'm going to come ask her. And I think that just listening, when I got here, I would ask people, what's something that's missing? Or what do you think would make this better for you personally? And some of those things are completely the wrong answer. They think that that's what's going to fix everything, and that's not what's going to fix everything. But a lot of it has also just been having more opportunities for all of the staff to interact with each other. Even if there's somebody who only works Friday, Saturday, they need to know the people who only work Mondays, because there's nobody who's mysteriously there to just blame for the issues. There's a lot of people policing each other, I think, before we got there. So that's why the suggestions in the staff meeting are really important, I feel, so that there's never an employee who does like, I don't really have the authority to say this, but I know that this person needs to fix this, but I'm just going to complain about it because I don't know how to tell them to fix it. So I hope that answered.
It does. And I had a follow-up question. Is I really had a visceral response when you said I provide snacks because everybody needs food, and it's not like it's just to clarify, it's not it's not necessarily because people are feeling peckish, but because there could be a food scarcity and people need food, right? Is that was the motivation?
I do have chips and candy, little things like that just to snack on. We also constantly have LaCroix, that's a thing that everybody is obsessed with. And if there's not any, they're like, oh my God, Amani must be out for the week because we don't have any LaCroix. But the ramen and the mac and the oatmeal, that's just there so that, somebody grabbing chips next to somebody who's hungry and grabbing the ramen, it doesn't look like they're being called out specifically for needing their lunch or something like that.
Thank you. I really respect what you're doing in your store. Thank you.
I have a question. Your suggestion box, is it a physical suggestion box or an online digital tool?
Our staff is a big mix of ages. We've got like some college age kids, and we've got some people who've retired and then come to work at the bookstore. So I have both options, just so that nobody feels like they can't get a suggestion because something's hard to navigate.
What is the online tool you use? Because I've been looking for a different one.
I just use a Google form, and I make it so that it can be anonymous, or you can put your name.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA website at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!